Few performers have moved so seamlessly between film, television, the Broadway stage, concerts, even as a best-selling author. In a career that has been spectacular, she has won 2 Tony Awards, 3 Drama Desk Awards, Golden Globe, Emmy nominations, Grammy nominations. A true honor to get to talk with a living legend, Bernadette Peters. Hello there.
Hello, hello. How are you? I'm so happy to be here.
When I run through that list of credits, do you feel like, yeah, that's me? Or are you like, who are they talking about?
I I I do go, "Oh, really?" I don't know because I'm not aware. I do say, "Oh, well, that's me." Yeah, because I'm not counting things and I'm not marking up how many, things awards I might have or it's to me it's all about doing the work and being as good as I can be. So I am surprised about any kind of awards I may have won.
Does the work still bring you the same joy it always did, assuming it always brought you joy?
Yes, even more so. I think you live more of life and you bring more of your experiences into the work and it becomes very personal and very deep and you connect to it and if you connect to it, the audience connects to it and so you have a wonderful something wonderful happens.
Yeah. Do you ever look back at roles you have done in the past and thought, wow, if I had known this now, how I would have tackled that then?
Yes, well, it's interesting. I got to do 27 years later, we did a reading of Into the Woods.
Hmm.
So now I live 27 years more, and it's a privilege to be able to go back
Yeah.
and do a role. And if I could go back and do some other roles, it'd be really interesting.
Yeah. I'm curious, in the run of a show, does that happen too? Do you start to
Oh,
realize
definitely.
different stuff? So then is it fair that we pay such close attention to opening night? Or should we say, let's go a few months in and see where this character has gone?
Um, well, both could be interesting, but for me, I'm always about how much more can I bring to it, how much more can I learn, how much. So, it'd be fun to, if you wanted to come opening night, then to come back or wait and see it in the run because for me, the run is what's exciting about a show.
Hmm.
About how much deeper can I go, how much more can I learn, what more is it about that kind of a thing. Because you're there, you sign like for a year, so that's.
Yeah. Does that ever give you a little pause when that contract's in front of you, even if you love the work, and you're like, ooh, this is the next so long of my life? Or after a number of years in the theater, that's commonplace?
Well, that's why you have to choose carefully. You don't want to be in something you don't like for a year. You have to choose a role that's just like wonderful and you want to live it and be it 8 times a week.
Yeah. Your career began very early, along with you, at the same time, pretty much. You almost came out of the womb performing. I'm curious when it shifted from being play and fun for you as a child growing up, and you started to see it as a career, a profession, something, a craft you could hone.
Well, that's an interesting question. I definitely was play acting when I was on television at 5 years old. I was just fantasizing and singing, and then these big machines were crossing in front of me. Those were the cameras. Um, and then I was a teenager working, not, I think more like 17. I started doing things and understanding what fun it was and to enjoy it. And as I got into it more and more, from 17 on, it became something that I knew was kind of wonderful for
Yeah.
me.
Was there a point where you moved from that period to realize how the work can touch an audience? That next level of performing isn't just bringing your best game to bringing a character to life, but that there's a subtext and there's lessons that can be learned. And in a sense, you can become an educator to your audience.
Well, I realized how powerful performing was when I was in a show and I had to do a reaction to somebody, and I went from audience right to audience left with my reaction, and audience right from audience left reacted. And I went, this is something really powerful, that you can affect a whole group of people like that. And then I think when I was in Sunday in the Park, and people would come backstage and they'd be so moved that I would think I was jealous of their experience. I had my experience on stage, but I was interested in what they were experiencing. And then as I saw the show years later as an audience member, I understood how it can touch an audience.
Yeah.
Pretty wonderful.
You talk about Sunday in the Park with George, also, of course, Into the Woods, Stephen Sondheim. I'm curious, when you think about the work he creates, what made his work so special? What was it he got, do you think, about the human experience and the human position that he was able to give us the lyrics he gave us, the shows he gave us?
I think he was just so tuned in to. I described him, and then he wrote. I described him as one of the greatest actors because he, with each show, had its own persona.
Mm-hmm.
It had its own style of music, depending on what the show was about. And then he played each character because he wrote about what was going on. He wrote for the character. And I don't think writers have been in touch like that since maybe Shakespeare. I just think he could get in touch with something. And plus he was so smart. He had all the words he needed because he was smart. And then he got in touch with the human condition.
Yeah.
And he must have brought his life into it somehow, and didn't have the best childhood mother, but never went around complaining about it, modeling. He just was all about the work and fun and doing, and his intention, making sure that his intention was up there, because he thought of every aspect, every way something could be said or something could be done, and eliminated all the parts that weren't as good as the one he found. But even in notes, if you say, oh, can I do this like this? He'd go, wait a minute, let me think about that. And then he'd go through it in his head of what was going on, and he would say, no, that's not right there, because this is what's happening. You could do that later, but not there, because this is what's happening in the scene there or in the song there. So it was a great privilege to be able to discuss with him, what he wrote about.
Can you take those lessons then to other composers, other shows, or do they stay in the Sondheim world?
Well, it's interesting. After I did Something in the Park, I went into a show called Song and Dance by Andrew Lloyd Webber. And the thing about that show is the character I played was on stage all by herself for the first act. She had to make up people in her head that she was talking to, that the song was talking to. And I don't think I could have done that show if I hadn't come from a show with such detail. So therefore, I realized what I needed to do to fill in the detail, to be able to talk as that character to imaginary people. The people that were not written, they weren't imaginary to me, but I had to, imagine them up.
Yeah, Song and Dance, one of my favorite CDs. You're just amazing. For folks that don't know, it's Tell Me on a Sunday, paired with variations, put together into an evening called Song and Dance. And I do believe someone won a Tony Award for that, maybe?
Yes. Yes.
I'm also curious then, when you take Sondheim's music, and you are known for interpreting and celebrating his music on stage and on recording, do you have a different freedom then when it's the song as a song, or are you still tying it back to as he intended it for the stage?
No, I have freedom, but I try not to pull it apart too much, because I try to keep the integrity of what he wrote. He loved to have he loved to, I loved him at my concerts and he loved to come to my concerts. And he loved, as long as your intention was pure about the song and what the song was about, and not just jazz it up just for the sake of jazzing it up, he was fine.
Yeah. Just to remind folks, we are speaking with Bernadette Peters, which is truly a joy. One more thing on Sondheim, and then we'll move on to other areas. What fascinated me, I encountered him in my career at one point, and I did not expect him to be such a regular guy. He referred to himself as Steve. He was I expected something much more godlike. And he came across as just like a really nice guy. And I found that really disarming, but it helped me understand him as a person, I think, a lot more, that he was a person.
Yes, yeah, he was a person. And he knew people could be intimidated by him, and he was the first one to make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Uh, and and he liked to talk about things, you know. If you're intimidated by him, he's not going to have a good conversation with you because you're going to be intimidated and not really say, you know, he loved words and thoughts and feelings and ideas and life. So yeah, that was important to him.
Yeah. When you talk about your work on the stage, you've been through a number of shifts on Broadway and what they have, in a sense, put their focus on more. There's been stunt casting and jukebox musicals and Disneyization and revivals. How do you think Broadway is doing right now? What is the health of Broadway today, and where do you see it headed?
You know, it's very expensive to go to Broadway now, and that's rough. How are you going to get people to come? And it's very expensive to put on shows. So, I mean, it's still happening, thank goodness, knock wood, but it's not. There aren't, I don't think, as many shows, and I feel it's the ticket prices have gotten
Right.
crazy expensive, and I don't know how you know, a couple could go or take their kids or like that just to go to a Broadway show. They really have to figure out something,
Yeah.
you know, not keep taking advantage of those you know, those high priced tickets that, oh, I could go, you want to go tonight, here's tickets for, oh, I can't even say how much they could be. They're high.
Yeah. Well, in the midst of all of that, are you still seeing fresh creative things coming from that arena, or are things that we're seeing fresh and creative coming from outside Broadway coming in? Is there still a place, I guess, for creativity within the Broadway world?
Yes, and I hope it continues, and that's the idea of it, is to have a place for creativity. And I just saw Oedipus came in from London, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just wonderful, wonderful acting and wonderful adaptation of the play, and uh, things like that. You know, make Broadway worthwhile.
Yeah.
And I think the mistake sometimes they make is try to make it commercial. This is what people are going to like. Well, you can't do it like that.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to write something. You can't. It has to come from the other side of the spectrum, not the end result. This is what they're going to like. It has to come from a wonderful idea that has integrity, that has heart, that people can connect to.
Mm-hmm.
Not sappy, in other words, but people need to connect to it somehow.
Well, it seems to be a problem in all realms of the media. When one thing is a hit, for some reason, all the suits decide, well, then we need to make an imitation of that hit, without realizing what the hit was because it was unique and fresh and something different that caught us.
That's right, and it's been that way for years,
Yeah.
really. I mean, even when I did some revivals, I said, let's not make this a walk down memory lane. Let's make it new, happening in front of people right now. That's what will grab them. Not, oh, I remember this song or I remember that song. I mean, it'll be a yawn.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
When you talk about that, it also makes me think of, and we talked about this a little earlier, but about you looking at a piece years later. But what about going into a classic character, such as a Dolly Levi and Annie from Annie Get Your Gun, or even Mama Rose? What can you bring as a performer to that, as opposed to the rich history that lives before it? How do you come into a role like that? How do you prepare for something like that?
Always from my point of view. I mean, why do they need to see it repeated exactly the same way it was done before?
Hmm.
So when I was actually doing Gypsy, June Havoc invited me to come talk to her. She said, because in actuality, you were more like my mother than any of the actresses that played it. Her mother was little and a strawberry blonde and a man killer. She wasn't, she used her feminine wiles. She
Yeah.
really, really did. And that gave me a lot of incentive and courage to do it. Plus the fact it was a kind of, I was in that show at 13 years old with my mother and my sister. So I knew that story so well, came from me. And that's how I played it. And when I did Hello Dolly, now I saw Carol Channing do it and she was remarkable the last time. But I went and I read the play. I read the original Thornton Wilder that it
Hmm.
came from. And I read the script and I realized how wonderful it was and what I could bring to it and what a wonderful story it was and what a wonderful, you know they they use the monologue at the end of the Thornton Wilde play, the matchmaker, and they put it throughout Dolly in three different places, and it was all about love and all about money. Money's like manure; it's not worth nothing unless you spread it around. Things about and people and what a beautifully constructed show.
Hmm.
Hello, Dolly really is. I could see why Carol Channing played it for the rest of her life.
Yeah. Are there those, when you take on one of those iconic roles, do you have to think logically about separating yourself from the pressure of taking on an iconic role and seeing it as just a fresh role for yourself? Or is there a legacy that you're well aware of you're carrying forward?
Certainly, there's a legacy you're carrying forward. A lot of those people that saw it originally are probably dead. If you're thinking about now, I'm taking on a new show, a new role, so you don't have to worry about them. But you do have to, with every role, you have to find a way to connect to it, so that once the show starts for those 2.5 hours, the audience is with you.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the movement between doing television work, doing Broadway theater, live theater, doing film work. As an actor, do you approach all of them the same way, or is there very specific ways you approach them because also knowing the longevity you're going to be with a character, things like that?
Well, first of all, each piece is written in a different style. If you're doing a farce, then you're going to be larger than you would be if you're doing a movie or a
Hmm.
movie for television. Or you really don't have to do much when the camera's on your face. And you learn those things, and you don't have to worry about that so much when you're on stage.
Yeah.
Um, each piece is written, it's either written in Crayola or it's written in pencil or it's written in little ink or it's delicate or it's everything is style is written in a different style and you have to take that into consideration.
Yeah. Is there one you prefer over another, or is it all the work?
No, no, I mean well, I like the writing. I go where the writing is good, no matter
Yeah.
where it is. If it's on stage, if it's on television, if it's on film, if it's a reading, it's the writing for
Yeah.
me is everything.
What is it like working with the Muppets?
Oh my God, it's so great. They're so adorable. And of course, you forget they're puppets. And I was kissing them, and they said, please don't kiss the Muppets because they're felt. You leave lipstick. It's hard to get the lipstick off, you know, but you want to just kiss them because they're just like these adorable creatures.
Yeah. We are thrilled because you are bringing your concert show. You're coming an evening with Bernadette here to Houston. And I'm curious what you think about in putting together a show like that and what you want to tell us as an audience about who you are as a performer.
Well, I'm number one. I know I'm there to entertain. So, and that could be done in comedy or drama or, but the presence. I'm there. There's no fourth wall. We're there together in this concert hall. We're there to have a good time. We're there to maybe cry. We're there to to go through um, emotions in life, and hopefully everyone feels they've spent a good evening. And then I like to sing some of the songs I love to be things that I like to be remember to remind myself, like "No One Is Alone" and "Children Will Listen" and "So Little to Be Sure Of." And then there's the songs that are "Losing My Mind" and things. So there's Sondheim, and then there's Jerry Herman. I sing the songs from "Hello Dolly," which are fun and wonderful, and also there's "Before the Parade Passes By," moving, but they're all about life, and hope, and there's a good arc to the evening. That's important.
Yeah.
And hopefully everyone will feel that they've spent an evening and it was worthwhile.
Yeah. Is there a Bernadette Peters that you put on to go on in a concert, or do you just come as you are?
um, well, I think possibly in life I'm a little more introverted than I am on stage, and on stage I'm not introverted.
Yeah.
So that may be the difference, but
Yeah.
it's you know I care about the audience, and I care about what they see. I care about how they hear it. I bring my own sound. I bring my own lights. I have a great orchestrations, a wonderful musical director. I care about the show.
Yeah.
It's important to me.
And I ask this the arena of, as an actor, when you go out on stage, you bring a character with you. When you go out in a concert version, I'm curious if that is somewhat daunting. You don't have that character to present. You're presenting, in a sense, you. So is Bernadette
Mhm.
Peters comfortable to bring Bernadette Peters onto stage, or do you find more comfort in a character?
No, I am comfortable
Yeah.
because I've been doing this for so long. I understand that there's no fourth wall, and
Yeah.
that hi, I'm up here, hi, you're down there. Let's do this together. No, I'm that's the most important part, I think, of concert performing. In fact, I like to see the audience. I don't like that it's a black world and I can't see,
Hmm.
that it's so dark. I like to be able to look people in the eye. I like to connect. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. One place where you brighten the world is definitely with your work with Broadway Barks. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that too. It's so important that people are aware, not just on Broadway, but across the globe, about how we care for our little four-legged friends.
Yeah, they really are are here for us. They're really for us, to uplift us, to be our companions, to help a child who is not speaking to feel secure. And I think people started to realize during the pandemic, when people were home, that people went and they got animals from the shelters or whatever, cats and dogs. And people in my building, all of a sudden, they said, "I've never had a dog before," and they're all upset. After the pandemic, they're in love with this creature that they brought home, and they serve a wonderful purpose. And
Yeah.
sometimes people are alone and they have nothing to get up for every day, and yet they have to get up, they have to walk the dog, they have to take care of the dog, they have to feed the dog, they have to feed the cat, they have to do all those things. It gives them a reason. And I'm very proud. Mary Tyler Moore and I started it. Now this year is it 28 years? I can hardly believe it. And now people understand how that animals in shelters are not bad animals. They're just homeless animals.
Hmm.
And now we started it in the UK. So my friend Elaine Page and I go over there, and that one is called West End Woofs. So we get all the people, the actors to come out from the shows before their show on a Saturday, and all the rescue dogs that they're learning there too. It's they don't quite they're getting it now. It's very important for them to have it, especially they were farmers will have these Saint Bernards, and when they're finished with them, it's a sad story. They take them to a place called the killing place, and then they shoot them all.
Oh,
And this way they don't have to do that. They can go into and help somebody, live with somebody, go into somebody's home, and then people get all excited about, little French bulldogs are the rage, and then they realize I can't handle a puppy, and then the puppy goes to a rescue. So they come to us at West End Wolves, and somebody that really wants, a dog can get any kind of dog there, a mutt, a French bulldog, any, whatever. So I think it's something that's really important.
yeah. Not only do you do the work with the dogs, as I mentioned at the beginning, you're a best-selling author, but it's from books that you've written in conjunction with Broadway Barks.
Yeah, I wrote three children's books and two songs actually, and that go with the books, go in the books, and it's been an experience. It's been wonderful. I usually write about each dog that I've gotten. I haven't written about my last one yet, though. Maybe I have another book in me.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for that book. We'll keep an eye out for you in concert here in Houston. We'll keep an eye out for all the work you continue to do and all the joy you bring us. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you. It was wonderful to talk to you, Ernie. Thank you so much.
Bernadette Peters, thank you.